Good morning. Sorry about last week. I had some technical difficulties. I went over the Samson class and got it all recorded, and I just totally messed it up when I was trying to get ready to upload it. So I apologize for not having something last week. But we're here this week, and hopefully this video works. Today, we're talking about Mark in chapter 1, where he heals a man with leprosy. And so the verses are 41 to 45 in chapter 1. It also sees the same story in Matthew chapter 8 verses 1 through 4 and Luke chapter 5 verses 12 to 16. So this is a story that's repeated across the board, and then it shows up in much the same way. As usual, Luke kind of maybe gets a little bit more descriptive, but not by much. The story is very much parallel between the three Gospels. I just picked Mark because Mark is what I'm reading right now and what I'm working on, so I thought we'd talk about this and share this together. And so I'll read the verses first. Now, Jesus has just been traveling through Galilee, preaching and healing, and so crowds are starting to show up, and people are starting to hear about this preacher, Jesus, who is healing people and who has a lot of just amazing things to say. So that's your setting. Jesus is traveling, preaching, healing, and he's moving through Galilee. And so we pick up our verses. It says, "A man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, 'If you are willing, you can make me clean.' Jesus was indignant. He reached out his hand and touched the man. 'I am willing,' he said, 'be clean.' Immediately the leprosy left him and he was cleansed. Jesus sent him away at once with a strong warning. 'See that you don't tell this to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them.' Instead, he went out and began to talk freely, spreading the news. As a result, Jesus could no longer enter a town openly, but stayed outside in lonely places. Yet the people still came to him from everywhere." So this man who had clearly, well, I shouldn't say clearly, we assume that he has heard about Jesus and recognizes him as he's traveling through, and he's sick. He has leprosy, which is a skin disease. And if you remember back in any of the Old Testament texts, like Leviticus, where we get a lot of the cleanliness and ritual laws, it talks about defiling skin diseases, so things that make people unclean in the eyes of the Lord. And so these people with leprosy, or lepers, were outcasts. They were set away, and nobody really wanted to touch them because it could be spread. So if you look back in Leviticus, and it's two separate chapters, it gets a big treatment. And there are other chapters within Leviticus and repeated later on in some of the other sections. They have one whole chapter on regulations about defiling skin diseases, about where they can and can't be, who they can talk to, and what they can touch, and all this. And then chapter 14 prescribes a process of cleansing and allowing them to return to their people. So you get this defiling skin disease that is no fault of your own, and you're cast aside. You're set apart from your people, which is horrible because, the community is very important. You want to be part of this group of people. This is your family. And so they get this disease and they're set aside. Nobody wants to talk to them. Nobody wants to see them. And you gotta imagine that's gotta feel pretty crummy. You really have no support. You're on your own. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation or felt that way. Maybe not because of a disease, but just you feel kind of like set aside or cast out, either in your peer groups or even in your own home. It can happen. There's unfortunately people treat others differently, sometimes based on something that they don't understand or that they think could make them sick. Sometimes it's based on an appearance, an accent, where they're from, their religion, a lot of different things that can cause people to set others aside and cast them out so that they don't have that community and that support. So it's really unfortunate. So if you can imagine yourself in that situation, you got to feel pretty desperate. He's probably assuming that he's going to spend a long time alone. He maybe already has spent a long time alone. And I imagine he probably feels pretty horrible and is just wants any chance just to be able to be near someone, to be able to have just a normal conversation with someone without them looking at you like, you just stay over there, I'm going to stay over here, we can shout to each other. So that's an awful feeling, to be cut off from your people. And so he hears about Jesus, he sees him, and he says, Lord, in one description in Mark, it just tells us it came to him and begged him on his knees. And if we go into Luke, I dropped my placeholder, I apologize. When we go to Luke, his description says, when he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and begged him. But his statement is still the same. He says, if you are willing, you can make me clean. So he's got that connection in his head, he's got this disease. He feels unclean because that's how it's been described. He's been defiled, right? He's got this defiling skin disease, a defiling disease that makes him unworthy. But he sees him and he recognizes the authority and the ability in Jesus, and he says, not, Lord, please make me clean, or you have to make me clean, or I'll give you anything to make me clean, or whatever. He knows somehow and acknowledges that it's still, despite this, if you are willing. He says, Lord, if you're willing, make me clean. So he's throwing himself down at the feet of the Lord, just asking, please, if you want to. And of course, the Lord says, I am willing. And he lays his hand on him and says, be clean. So remember, this guy has leprosy. He's been cast out, away from his community and everybody, right? Nobody wants to deal with him. No one wants to be around him. He's like, kind of made to sit off in a corner somewhere when everybody else is gathering. Maybe not even allowed into the area at all, for fear of them catching him and their perception of him being just filthy and dirty and, yuck, we don't want anything to do with that. Jesus touches him. He lays his hand on this man with leprosy, who nobody else wants to even come near, who by Levitical law can't even be around his people or in the confines of an encampment. He lays his hand on him and says, be clean. And his leprosy is healed. So, if you can imagine for a second, if you're in a situation where, maybe you're in this guy's shoes where, maybe you just don't quite fit in. Maybe for whatever reason, you're kind of set aside. and someone doesn't want to associate with you. Or maybe, you just don't get along with the people around you. Whatever reason, you're feeling very alone. Or in the middle of all this, maybe you just, you're not feeling connected, right? Maybe people don't want to reach out to you, whatever the reason is. You're feeling very alone and maybe without hope, just wandering around with what's in your heart, making you feel less than. Excuse me. Making you feel less than, and just generally not worthy. But you can reach out. You don't have to fall on your face. You don't even have to get down on your knees and beg. Because of course, he's willing. If you just ask him, you don't have to go searching on lonely roads for him. You can find him right where you're at. Just ask him. Say, Lord, if you're willing, please heal me. And so after this, he's been cleansed. And you imagine the joy. Oh my goodness. You know? To have been set apart, outcast, feeling with, absolutely no hope whatsoever of having a decent life, let alone being around the people that you love. And all of a sudden, he's clean. He didn't have to go through all these steps that were laid out in Leviticus, or he thinks. But he's been healed. He can go rejoin his people. And some of us, there's intention one way or the other as far as, what role Jesus played as it relates to the laws. But remember that he tells us in other places that he has not come to abolish the law, he's come to fulfill it. And this is an example of preceding what he said of that case. Because he says, as he sends him away, he gives him a warning. He says, see that you don't tell this to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them. So likely, because he's a leper, he wouldn't have traveled far, I don't expect. So the people at his home where he would go would be aware of his condition and his situation. So they would know, hey, that's John that we just kicked out because he's got spots all over him. We didn't expect to see him ever again. Jesus doesn't want him to go run around and tell people, hey, this guy over here, he's healing people. He healed me. Look at this. I'm all healed. I'm all clean. No, he tells him to go to the synagogue and make his offering. Just like it was laid out back here. So he's not telling the man to ignore the law or the rule. He's still upholding the faith traditions that they held on to for so long and that he was familiar with. And so he hasn't yet revealed himself as the Messiah to these people. So yes, he's healing and teaching them, but I believe based on this that he tells him that because he's not trying to undermine the faith in God. He still wants this man to honor God for what he's been delivered from. And so he tells him, go and make the offering that you're supposed to make. But this guy's just too excited. He's flipping out. He's running around telling everybody. He's like, hey, this guy's he's doing this. Look at me. I'm all clean. I'm all better. So he didn't quite listen, which he's human. And can you imagine if you had received this gift, whatever it was, just this most exciting thing that just restored hope in you. I don't think I would be all that capable of keeping that to myself and just kind of going through the motions like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody. I think that'd be pretty hard. So you can kind of understand, I can kind of sympathize with this guy. He's just really excited, as I would be, because it means more than just this disease is cured and I don't have these areas of skin that are just, bad. So yeah, there's that, in the immediate, but think about what that means to this guy far beyond that. He can go be with his family again. He can go be in his community. Maybe he was a worker. Maybe he was a craftsman. We don't know. But all these possibilities, you don't know what this guy was, who this man was before leprosy took him from his life. Now he has a chance, after however long he's been suffering with this, he has a chance to go back to that life. And so gosh, I really think I would have a hard time not running around and telling everybody. And I think that, just with us today, our healing, our cleansing at the hands of Jesus, excuse me. I got a frog in my throat today. Our cleansing, our healing is in a different manner, right? God is healing our hearts and our spirits, cleansing us from our sins. But I think that he probably, now that we know he's the Messiah, he probably expects us to run around and be excited and tell people. So if you are like me and carried around this defiling condition of sin, unrepentant sin, for a long time, and you have met Jesus on the road, asked him to forgive you, asked him to clean you, and he has, have you then been quiet and just reveled in your new cleanness, or have you run around and told people about it? There's a difference between us and the leper. This man was before Jesus declared himself as the Messiah, before he was known and what he was doing. We know, because we have this, we have the Word, and we have the wisdom that's been passed on for generations. We have this knowledge that he didn't. So Jesus wants us to go and excitedly tell people what has happened for us and who did it, so that others will come and others will be encouraged. That's where our hope is. No matter what kind of condition we find ourselves in. And I'm not talking about physical affliction, although, people can be troubled by all sorts of things. The main thing is in here, if we're troubled and we ask Jesus, say, Lord, if you're willing, please forgive me. You know he is. And so we can just wipe that away. That's our old selves. We have our new lives. We have our new hope. And man, that's exciting. So you can be like the leper. It's okay. After he's healed, he's running around telling everybody what's happened in him. And that's a good thing. So I have to decide too, yes, we're the lepers, but we're also the community around the leper. And so we also have to recognize that people suffer from things that maybe we don't necessarily see. So maybe look around and see if you can identify ways that other people are suffering, ways that other people are maybe set aside or cast out. And in our excitement, in our knowledge that Jesus has healed us, we said, hey, I know this guy. I know where you can be healed. Let's go and share. It's not enough to look at that person that's struggling or set aside or cast out and be like, oh man, gosh, I feel horrible for that person. That must really stink. And then carry about our business. So lift them up. Yes, pray for them. Pray powerfully for them. But don't just stop there. If God reveals a way to get them on this road, to get them to have their encounter with Jesus, so that they can have their own healing, and we should do that. Because we have experienced this. We have experienced this release. So be excited. Tell your friends. Tell somebody that you think is struggling, even if it's something that, you might look at and think it's silly, whatever. But share it, okay? This is really powerful. It's a very short little story, but it's strong. Everything in here has a message, of course. Otherwise it wouldn't be written down. We wouldn't study it. But ask God to heal you if you're hurting. Offer testimony to that healing to others. And lost my thought. Ask God to heal you. Offer that testimony, and look for other lepers, other folks that are struggling and need healing as well. So think about what that might look like. Pray over it. Talk to your families, and just share together in the joy. It's still challenging. We're still all separated and cast out ourselves, but for a different reason. But we're all together here. We're all praying together. Some of us are worshiping in the building. Some of us are watching the videos. But all our hearts are together in this community, in this body of Christ. And so you're still with us even if you're not coming in the building. So we miss you. Don't force it. Don't come in unless you're really ready. We're taking the precautions, but before I go, other hopeful news is that we are starting to make plans so that we might have a way soon, hopefully in the next maybe month or so, we'll see, of getting our classes back in the room, back together, so that we can share in these things face to face, although maybe through a little bit of fabric, but this little piece can't stop the word from getting out. So we really look forward to coming back together. Miss you. Continue to pray for you. Pray for one another. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.